Oregon made the biggest statement of week 4 and maybe in college football this year. They let everyone know that they are not playing games, they're not messing around, and they beat Colorado in convincing fashion. And I think a lot of that, a lot of the importance of this game came from the hype from Colorado and came from the excitement about the Buffalo's 3-0 start. And Oregon reminded everyone that they are still a contender in college football, and they showed us exactly why. We'll talk about what happened in the game here. We'll talk about implications and what it means going forward, because I think that it'd be easy to overreact to this game and say some certain things, but I think that it would be unwise to just take one game like we've done with Colorado and just assume that this means certain things. We'll start with the Oregon side of things. Dan Lanning obviously had his speech, and it caused quite a stir in the college football community. The substance, no flash. We're playing for wins, not clicks. There were a lot of things he said that obviously got a ton of attention, and people had strong opinions one way or another. It was a good speech. I'll give him that. I was pretty entertained by it, and I think that some people liked it, some people didn't. It is what it is. But Oregon obviously took that to heart and came out with a 35-0 lead at halftime. You're looking at an offense in Colorado that has been one of the most explosive in college football. They put up 21 yards in the first half to Oregon's 378. Oregon pretty much did whatever they wanted in the first half. There was nothing that Colorado could do defensively that could slow them down. There was nothing that they could do on offense that could get points on the board or move the ball efficiently. Oregon's defense finished with 7 sacks on the day, and Colorado's struggles just didn't stop. They weren't able to do much until it was too late. And then you see a 42-6 loss for them. They got outgained 522 to 199. You can say anything about this offense, and it's probably true in terms of the negativity surrounding their performance. Their inability to move the ball down the field, and there are two things that really killed that, and that is a big reason why they weren't able to do that. The first thing is kind of a minor thing, but it's a continuing trend, and it's penalties. Colorado continues to take penalties that are unnecessary and kill some drives. They had 12 penalties today for 105 yards. And considering it's over half of the yards that they gain total, that's not going to help. The other thing, the biggest issue that continues to be a problem is their performance in the trenches, specifically the offensive line. Shedeur had an Oregon defender in his face within 2 seconds almost every single play. He was running for his life or getting hit. His offensive line did not give him time to throw. And this is one of the things we talked about coming into this game or coming into this year is that Colorado's depth would be a question and Colorado's talent on the offensive line. That's going to be the biggest thing that will determine their success. And right now we're seeing some depth issues, and we're obviously seeing the offensive line have their own issues as well. I think the biggest thing is Colorado is so talented. They have so many talented players on their team. It's just that you can only add so many guys before you don't get the quality that you're expecting. To be able to redo this roster, which is what Deion's trying to do, requires you to have some sort of patience. And we knew that it would take time. It wasn't that everyone expected well, most of us didn't expect Colorado to all of a sudden be a contender in the Pac-12. We didn't expect them to make a playoff run. We expected them to take some time and need some time. And honestly, if you were looking at Colorado objectively, you would know that the game like this was possible. You knew that this was going to happen eventually, and we saw that today. And it's not that Colorado is a bad team all of a sudden. That's the one thing I don't want to do. Yes, Oregon manhandled Colorado, but if you look at this objectively, Colorado was not going to be an elite team in college football. They were a team that had some flashes. They have some really good talent, and they didn't have one in Travis Hunter. Now, Travis would have made an impact on the game, but he's not a 36-point difference. Having him would have changed a little bit, but the outcome would have been the same. Oregon would have taken care of business. They would have manhandled Oregon or Colorado, and they would have done what they needed to do. So I don't want people to overreact and think, oh, well, Oregon's all of a sudden the best team in college football. And I don't want people to think that Colorado is terrible. I think Colorado is still very fun, very talented, and can be a solid team. A bowl game is definitely in play. I think that the funniest thing would be is if they go next week and upset USC. I think that would be really funny, really entertaining, and very on brand for the Pac-12. But let's not overreact to just one game. And I think that it would be easy to do that. You obviously want to take something from the game, make observations. And the observation was if you looked at this objectively, you knew that Colorado could potentially hang for a little while with Oregon, but there was nothing saying that Oregon wasn't going to win this game. I think that the people that look at this, like I said, from an objective lens, saw the flaws in Colorado, the lack of a rushing attack, the inability to make stops when you need it. Those were the concerns you had when you saw them against Nebraska, when you saw them against Colorado State, TCU. You saw the concerns, and some people chose to acknowledge that, some people chose to ignore it. And finally, it was you just couldn't ignore it any longer. Colorado was not able to move the football. And you can't really put much of that, if any, on Shedeur. The fact that he didn't ever have time to throw says a lot about the issues they're having. And you have to tip your cap to Bo Nix and Oregon. They were able to move the ball efficiently down the field, and they were able to be disruptive to Colorado's offense. And like I said, when I say that Oregon can pretty much do whatever they want, I mean they literally could do whatever they want. Their first two drives almost looked like they was on air. They were just picking their play, and whatever play they picked worked. They didn't have to audible. They didn't have to overthink it. They just picked a play and it worked. So that's definitely something that we noticed early on was this was Oregon's game to win, and they made sure that happened. And Bo Nix had a solid game. Didn't really need to do a ton because of how dominant this team was. One player that did stand out on offense was Troy Franklin. I think he had a really good game. He made the most of his opportunities, 8 catches, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. Colorado did not have an answer for him. Colorado did not. Even if they had Travis Hunter, I don't think they would have had too many stops in their bag. And that was really troubling for them. I think that Oregon's defense really made a statement too. You look at Jordan Birch had a solid game. Evan Williams, the Fresno State transfer, was also solid. And then Kyrie Jackson had a good game. I thought they tried to test him quite a bit, and he stood up to the test and played really well. So that's definitely a fun aspect for Oregon fans, and definitely a fun aspect for the future of a team that's hoping to win the Pac-12. That's a very loaded conference. Now, Oregon still has plenty of work to do themselves. I think that they are still hoping to win the Pac-12, obviously, and they play Stanford next, but then they have to play Washington. And Washington is playing about as good as anyone else. They also still have to play certain other teams that are going to be competitive in the Pac-12. This is a conference that is very much loaded, very much very talented, and we've seen exactly how difficult it can be to win. For Colorado, obviously, and Dion said this too, you need this loss to be able to figure things out. You want to win, and now they have some more film to digest. They have different things that they can work on, they can fix, and it's obviously not easy to lose a game like this, but now you know what you need to do, the level you need to reach to compete in the Pac-12. And I think that Colorado's closer than they think they are, but obviously this was a reality check, and Oregon reminded them that there's still a ways to go before they're getting on that level.